Pinocchio is magical in all versions, but also quite disturbing and with very strange scenes. And not just in the new version by Guillermo del Toro, but also the Disney versions, though none of them come close to the original story. That's why let's take a look at the comparison between all these versions. Everything starts off diabolical in the original story. It even seems like the opening plot of a horror movie, since it doesn't start with Jiminy Cricket but with Mastro Chari, a woodcutter who is doing his job when he starts to cut down a tree, which keeps telling him not to cut it. After this, the woodcutter takes it to Gepetto, a friend of his who is a carpenter. We never see this character in any movie. All begin with Pepe el Grillo narrating Pinocchio's story. What about the log? In Disney versions it never shows up, while in Guillermo del Toro's version, Gepetto cuts it down himself. This tree, which grew near the grave of his late son Pepe el Grillo, holds little significance and faces a cruel fate. In the original story, Pepe el Grillo narrates in the Disney and Guillermo del Toro versions, but in the original tale, he wasn't even named. He appears to offer advice, but Pinocchio, newly born, crushes him with a hammer for being so nosy. Later, he returns as a ghost but without much prominence. In Guillermo del Toro's version, there is a reference to this, but he only uses the hammer to trap him. The scenes in the house didn't seem to have much relevance in the original story, but in the movies there are some very interesting differences during those scenes. In the original Disney version, Gepetto lives with a fish and a cat in a house full of clocks. In the remake, it's almost the same as the original, but here the clocks have references to other Disney movies. In Guillermo's version, Gepetto lives completely alone after losing Carlo, in a messy workshop full of wooden puppets, which have references to the characters from the same movie. The creation of Pinocchio in the story is done with a lot of patience, something that Gepetto later regrets. In the Disney versions, he does it at night while dancing, very happy and content, while in Guillermo del Toro's version, Gepetto is drowned in alcohol and very angry with life. Pinocchio was already alive in the original story. Since he was a log, he already had life and was only turned into a puppet. In other versions, someone else brought him to life. In Disney's version, Gepetto wishes on a shooting star for Pinocchio to be a real boy and the fairy godmother appears. She is going to grant his wish, while in the most recent version, Gepetto doesn't ask anyone for anything. It's the spirit of the forest who decides to give life to Pinocchio and right away asks Jiminy Cricket to take care of him. Pinocchio is a crazy psychopath who mistreats and hits Gepetto every day, and I'm not joking. In the original story, this is a reality. His design is more like that of a skinny boy. And in the Disney scenes, Pinocchio is a cheerful little boy who even dances with his dad Gepetto. With a friendlier and more colorful appearance, he looks more like a little boy. In Guillermo del Toro's version, he appears happier, more innocent and curious. He also dances and sings alone. However, this one looks human with branches and nails protruding from his body. His nose is more of a power in the original story because he can make it grow at will, unlike in other versions, where it happens when he tells lies. And even though he's able to make it grow, it never becomes very important. Pinocchio's goal stays the same. He always wants to be a real boy. Except for Guillermo del Toro's version, where it's more of a secondary thing since he is happy being the way he is. Pinocchio doesn't lose his feet in the Disney movies, and that would have been something strange to see there. But in the original story, he does lose them because of the fire. While Gepetto puts them back on him very reluctantly, in Guillermo del Toro's movie it also happens, but Gepetto does it with good intentions. Did he arrive at the school? Interestingly, that's one of the things that changes most in each version. In the Disney remake version, he did arrive at the school and went in, but they kicked him out, while in the original, he never arrived because they convinced him to go to the carnival. In the story, it's the same, but no one persuades him. He goes alone because he hears flutes. Worst of all, the trickster sells the alphabet book Gepetto worked hard to buy him just to pay for the entrance. In Guillermo del Toro's version, he reaches the school but doesn't enter. Instead, they persuade him to go to the carnival. He only did one good thing in the original story, which was saving other puppets who were just as mischievous as he was. While in the original Disney movie nothing like that happens, in the remake it's somewhat similar. Well, there's a girl who controls another puppet, but she doesn't help him much. And in Guillermo's version, he does meet other puppets, the ones controlled by Spazzatura, an original character from this version whom he also saves. The fair that appears in the movies is unique to the Disney versions. Here, there are quite a few differences in the original version. It's an ugly place, it's scary, and it's a place where kids smoke, drink, and cause trouble. In the remake, it looks like a Disney park. Everything is perfect and well lit. And here they don't smoke or anything, because times have changed. In the original story, there's no fair, but there is a land of toys, which serves pretty much the same purpose as the fair. In Guillermo del Toro's version, we have a very different take on these. A military camp for children, which, although it's not a place full of excess, is full of kids pretending they're at war. He turns into a donkey for being a donkey. According to the moral of the original story, he turned into a donkey because he didn't go to school. And according to the original story, it's someone who kidnapped him and somehow turned him into a donkey. In the Disney movies, he turns into a donkey by magic and as a direct consequence of disobeying with some pretty disturbing scenes. In Guillermo del Toro's version, all of this was completely omitted. Pinocchio's escape is also different because in the land of toys he escapes alone, and in the Disney versions he escapes from a cage. In the original, he escapes with help from the fairy godmother, while in the remake, he uses his nose-growing ability and Jiminy Cricket to escape. In Guillermo's version, he creates complete chaos by mocking the dictator Benito Mussolini, which causes them to shoot him, and in this way he can die and therefore escape from the carnival. A more hardcore Pinocchio? Pinocchio's reunion with Gepetto also changes. Well, in the story, Gepetto is swallowed by a shark instead of a whale. And by chance, the shark also ends up swallowing Pinocchio, who had escaped from the land of toys. In the Disney movies, Gepetto is eaten by a giant whale while he is looking for Pinocchio. And Pinocchio goes to look for him together with Jiminy Cricket. In Del Toro's version, we do see how Gepetto goes to look for Pinocchio together with the cricket, but are they eaten by a sea monster? In the remake, we had a whale squid and here it was more like a mythological creature. This monster just happens to eat Pinocchio and Spazzatura, and that's how everyone reunites. Do they use asthma and heart issues to escape the shark in the original story? Yes, apparently it was a really sickly shark. And in the Disney versions, they use fire to get expelled from the whale. In the remake, there are also scenes of Pinocchio propelling himself with his magic legs. In Guillermo's version, they use the nose's ability to tickle the monster and escape that way. But it's a whole escape sequence where the monster fights against them in the mine's cemetery, which causes a great disaster. The original ending has a disturbing moral, and that is, after a lot of work, the fairy godmother turns Pinocchio into a real boy. But with one condition, his puppet version will continue to exist. There, according to the writer, the puppet waits with its head turned to one side, its arms hanging loosely, and its legs twisted. When the boy misbehaves, he will turn back into the piece of wood he once was. In Disney's original ending, Pinocchio dies in a disturbing scene where we see him lying in a puddle. He then returns to life as a real boy. In the remake, Gepetto dies but is revived. A tear? And then he accepts Pinocchio as a wooden boy, so that seconds later Pinocchio becomes a real boy. In Del Toro's version, there's a clash of emotions. Pinocchio does become real, but it costs him his life. Pepe El Grillo saves him and all the characters live happily for a while until they start dying one by one. It's a sad and beautiful montage, leaving Pinocchio alone in the world. What about you? Which Pinocchio scenes from different versions did you like best? Post your answers in the comments.